Carrick border. Checkpoint Theta, -7. Cold, efficient, and merciless to the unremarkable. Among the travelers stood an elderly human woman, her silver hair a curiosity among the scaled and shelled.
Human. Next, let's see if your documents are as primitive as your lifespan.
Good morning, officer. I have everything right here.
79 and traveling alone? Your species must be desperate for a reason to exist.
I am sure you are just doing your job. May I have my documents back?
What's this? Homemade food? Potential biohazard? Confiscated?
Those are for my grandchildren. Is that really necessary?
Regulations don't care about your offspring. Move along.
He thought he had insulted a frail tourist. He had not yet realized that the elderly human woman in front of him knew his emperor's mother personally. Inside her transport, the cream and rose hull gleamed with painted floral filigree, a floating sunroom among the stars.
Note to self, Officer Vresh Trell, Theta -7, confiscated cookies. Unpleasant, but not worth a letter.
She wrote the name carefully in the worn leather notebook, a book that held decades of similar quiet entries.
40 years of this view. It never gets old.
The journey was short, a standard hop to the colony where her son lived and her grandchildren waited. The spaceport was bustling, but a familiar figure in the crowd caught her eye, her granddaughter Emma.
Grandma, over here.
Emma, dear, you didn't have to come all the way to meet me.
Of course I did. Anything exciting happen at the checkpoint?
Just the usual, dear. Let's go. I've missed you all.
The evening settled over the colony home, lights glowing warm through the windows as the family gathered for dinner. Around the table, conversation flowed easily, until Emma brought up the checkpoint again.
Well, there was a rather unpleasant young officer. He took my cookies as a biohazard.
He did what? Grandma, that's outrageous.
It's not worth fussing over. I am sure he was having a bad day.
A bad day doesn't excuse treating you like that. Did you get his name?
I did, but I won't be writing any letters over cookies. Let's enjoy our dinner.
She says that every time. I am not letting this one go.
The dinner carried on with lighter topics, but Emma's silence held a promise she didn't yet understand. That night, after the dishes were cleared, Emma reached for her communicator. The connection chimed twice before her mother's face appeared, tired but alert, against the glow of a distant lamp.
Emma, it's late. Is everything okay?
Not really. It's about Grandma. Something happened at the checkpoint.
Tell me, what did they do?
Some officer called her species desperate, insulted her age, and took her cookies as a biohazard.
That's completely unacceptable. What's his name?
Vresh Trell. She won't write a letter this time, but I can't just ignore it.
Don't worry. I'll call Claire. Michael can make sure this is handled properly.
Finally. Maybe this time someone will actually do something.
Neither of them could know that the match they'd just struck was about to catch fire across 6 empires. Early the next morning, Sarah placed a call to her sister Claire, the connection crackling across the light years.
Sarah, this is a nice surprise. How are you? I wish it were just a social call. Claire, it's about Mom. What happened? Is she all right? She's fine physically, but a border officer humiliated her at the checkpoint, confiscated her cookies, insulted her age. He did what? That's absolutely unacceptable. Do we have his name? Vresh Trell. Emma got it from Mom. I think Michael should know. You are right. He'll want to handle this personally. I am going to tell him now. Thank you, Claire. I just couldn't let it go.
Claire ended the call and crossed the embassy residence, the weight of the message shifting from family concern to diplomatic incident. In his office, Ambassador Michael Chen looked up as Claire entered, her expression enough to set aside his reports.
What's wrong, Claire?
It's about my mother. She was humiliated at the Carrick checkpoint by an officer named Vresh Trell.
What exactly did he do?
Insulted her age, her species, and confiscated her homemade cookies as a biohazard.
That's a direct insult to the family. I'll handle it through channels, but subtly. I have a call with the Vrekthi ambassador this afternoon. I'll mention it as a personal anecdote, not a formal complaint.
That's all it needs. Mom would never want a fuss, but justice is important.
He nodded, already composing the casual remark that would ripple through empires. The incident that Evelyn Dunbar had already forgotten was now on a diplomatic vector with no off-ramp. The Vrechti channel opened at the appointed hour, the ambassador's expression shifting from formality to concern as Chen spoke.
A small personal matter. Ambassador, my mother-in-law, Evelyn Dunbar, was subjected to some discourtesy at your checkpoint Theta -7. An officer confiscated her belongings and made unfortunate comments.
In the adjoining solarium, Lady Drethra Vrechti set down her embroidery, the thread snapping under her sudden grip.
Evelyn, my Evelyn, after all she's done for our family, for me, this shall not pass.
She rose from her chair, the rustle of her silk gown a whisper of coming consequence.
Someone will answer for this.
She crossed to her personal terminal and activated a channel reserved for only the most urgent, most private of correspondences.
My dear Chancellor, I must ask whether you are aware of an incident at Theta -7 involving a certain elderly human.
The message sent. She began the next and the next. A web of loyalty decades in the weaving was being pulled taut before sending another message. Lady Drethra opened a direct channel to the Dunbar residence.
Evelyn, my dear friend, I have just heard what happened.
Drethra, it was nothing, really. The officer was simply doing his job.
Do not protect him. He insulted you, and by extension, all of us. This cannot stand.
You always were protective, but I did not want a fuss. The children are already upset.
I will be discreet, but certain people must know that such treatment is unacceptable.
Evelyn knew that tone. It was the same one Drethra used before convincing 3 trade ministers to fund children's libraries.
If you must. But truly, I am more annoyed about the cookies.
I will see that you get a new batch, my friend. Now, I have more calls to make.
The screen dimmed, and Evelyn was left with the quiet certainty that the galaxy was about to receive a very firm lesson in politeness. Across the quadrant, 3 messages arrived within the same hour, each bearing Lady Drethra's seal. The Chancellor's wife, in her garden of singing crystals, read the note and went pale. She sent her reply before the next chime sounded, demanding to know what action would be taken. A retired admiral in his mountain retreat read his copy and shattered the glass in his hand. He didn't bother with a reply. He opened a direct channel to the Admiralty, his voice a low growl. In the royal kitchens of the Jinzar Empire, the head chef dropped a saucepan when his comm chimed, Evelyn's protégé. She had taught him the secret to her ginger snaps. Could not believe the insult. He dictated a note to the Empress Dowager, his voice trembling with outrage, then sent a personal vow of support to Lady Drethra. By the time the colony's twin suns rose, the 3 replies had joined dozens more, a constellation of indignation. The incident at Theta -7 was no longer a family matter. It was a diplomatic pulse, and every empire with a connection to Evelyn felt the tremors. By midday, private messages had reached 5 empires, each bearing Lady Drethra's crest, and a single urgent question. The 6th joined within the hour, a pulse of concern threading through the diplomatic back channels. Yet at checkpoint Theta -7, the morning shift proceeded as if the universe had not tilted on its axis. Resh Trell had placed the confiscated cookie box on his station like a trophy, its hand-tied ribbon still intact.
See these? Some old human actually thought she could bring them through. Fragile species.
His colleague glanced at the box, then at the message traffic on his own screen, and his scales rippled faintly.
What's with the face? It's just a harmless old lady's treat.
But the colleague had seen the keyword alerts stacking up. Quiet, formal requests for information from addresses that were never used lightly.
Probably just jealous. I got the best find of the week.
He could not see the 6 empires now converging on his service record, each demanding an answer that the checkpoint logs didn't contain. In the Carrick Palace, the Empress Dowager's morning routine was interrupted by an urgent priority message. The seal of Lady Drethra Vrechti was enough to pause her teacup midair.
What now, Drethra? You never write without reason.
She opened the message, and the words hit harder than any physical blow.
Evelyn, my Evelyn, humiliated by a junior officer.
Her eyes moved to the portrait on the wall. Her younger self and Evelyn, arms linked, laughing.
22 years of letters. She gave me courage when my mate died.
With a hand steadied by decades of diplomacy, she opened a channel to the Emperor.
Zorath, I need your full attention. We have a situation at Theta -7.
In the throne room, the Emperor heard his mother's tone and knew the day had just changed. Emperor Zorath ended the call with his mother and summoned his chief of security without waiting for the echo to fade.
I want a full investigation into checkpoint Theta -7, specifically an officer named Vreshtrel. Now.
The order cascaded through the Carrick military hierarchy, reaching the checkpoint commander in minutes. Vreshtrel was summoned to the commander's office. He assumed it was a commendation.
Sir, is this about the biohazard I intercepted? I've already filed the paperwork.
The commander's expression could have petrified stone.
What? It was just an old human woman. Her cookies were a clear violation.
The commander slid a data pad across the desk, showing dozens of flagged inquiries from 6 empires.
Those couldn't all be about the cookies, could they?
But the first crack in his arrogance was too small for him to see the abyss waiting below. Later that evening, Vreshtrel bought drinks for his squad at a station bar, his laugh too loud, his tales of the day's triumph too eager.
The commander didn't know what hit him. I told him it was just an elderly human and her cookies.
His comrades stared at their drinks. Not one of them cracked a smile.
Why are they acting like I am the one who made a mistake? It was a routine interception.
The air was thick with unspoken warnings and the faint scent of ozone. Then his communicator emitted a chime, a priority override that silenced the entire bar. Priority command. Officer Vreshtrel, report to Imperial Command at 6:14. Failure to attend constitutes treason.
Treason? For cookies? What in the name of the ancestors is happening?
Every patron turned. The bartender froze mid-pour. Vreshtrel looked at the message again, and for the first time, he felt the weight of an empire's gaze at 06:14 precisely. Vreshtrel walked the long corridor to the throne room, each step echoing like a countdown. The throne room swallowed him in silence. The Emperor and Empress Dowager waiting like carved gods.
You are here because you insulted a guest of this empire, Officer Vreshtrel.
Her name is Evelyn Dunbar. For 22 years, she has written to me, consoled me, and never once asked for anything in return. And you made her feel small. You mocked her age, her species, and took the cookies she baked for her grandchildren.
Vreshtrel's throat tightened, but no words came. The Emperor's upheld hand froze them in his mouth.
You will deliver a written apology to her residence in person by 0930. Additionally, you will provide a fresh batch of cookies prepared to her exact specifications at your own expense.
An aide stepped forward, a formal scroll heavy with the Imperial seal, and placed it in Vreshtrel's trembling hands. The clock on his communicator blinked 6:44. He had less than 3 hours to correct a lifetime of arrogance. The Imperial kitchens erupted into controlled chaos as chefs deciphered the ancient Earth recipe. Exact ratios, specific brands, a handwritten note about softened, not melted butter. A priority courier ship launched from the palace. Its destination a small harbor town in Maine. Earth, the baker, a woman who had known Mrs. Dunbar for 40 years, handed over a sack of flour, 2 pounds of butter, and a bag of semi-sweet chips before the sun fully cleared the pine trees.
Butter, flour, chocolate. I can still taste her polite silence. This isn't about cookies.
Back in the palace kitchens, the chefs followed the recipe with the reverence of a religious rite. Every gram measured every chip placed by hand. At 0850, the cookies emerged from the oven, golden, aromatic, a perfect replica of Mrs. Dunbar's own batch. They were arranged in a ceremonial box, sealed with the imperial crest. An aide pressed the box into Vreshtrel's hands alongside the apology scroll. The scroll's wax seal felt like a third-degree burn. The shuttle door sealed, and the pilot, a stoic Imperial guard, engaged the engines without a word. The countdown clock now read 37 minutes.
What do I say to this woman? I am sorry, your cookies are a biohazard. She'll see right through me.
The shuttle broke atmosphere and gathered speed. Below, the palace shrank, but the weight in Vreshtrel's chest grew with every kilometer. The Imperial shuttle set down on the quiet colony street, its insignia, drawing curtains, and camera lenses. Vreshtrel stood at the door a full minute before pressing the chime, the box and scroll heavy in his arms. Inside, Mrs. Dunbar set down her tea and smoothed her cardigan, the chime a gentle disruption. When she opened the door, the Carrick officer was visibly trembling, his scales paler than she remembered.
Mrs. Dunbar, I have something for you. From the Emperor, I am ordered to apologize. I was wrong, deeply wrong. Please accept these.
Well, that's very kind. Why don't you come in for a cup of tea? You look like you could use it.
Behind her, several small faces peeked around the corner, stifling giggles at the sight of the towering alien holding a pink box.
She offered me tea. I insulted her species, and she offered me tea.
She never did write that letter, but by sunset, she wouldn't need to. By mid-morning, the first of 5 additional couriers arrived, a silver dispatch from the Vrekthi Chancellery. Then the Jinzar apology, wrapped in silk. Then the others, each more elaborate than the last. Mrs. Dunbar carried them to the sunroom where her scrapbook lay open, tea already cooling.
Ah, the standard phrasing. They really must stop sending the silk pouches. They never hold up.
She filed each letter with the same unhurried care, between pages already thick with history. From the doorway, one of her grandsons watched, eyes wide.
Grandma, how many of those do you get anyway?
Oh, a couple a year, I suppose. I'd forgotten about this one already.
Her scrapbook bulged with 4 decades of such letters, embroidered apologies, wax seals, promises of friendship. And as the afternoon sun streamed through the window, she turned the page to make room for more. The scrapbook told only part of the story. The rest was woven into the fabric of interstellar politics. An informal tally, never published, calculated that her letters had directly prevented 14 minor wars, 3 trade collapses, and 1 assassination. She never intended power. She simply liked people, and people remembered. In 3032, a shy alien child at her summer camp learned to paint sunsets, a child who would become emperor of the Jinzar. Frank Dunbar once served a chocolate souffle that softened a Krell negotiator into signing a landmark treaty. Her grandchildren had a standing joke, "Don't make grandma write a letter," and the cookies. Empress Dowager Isel banned them from Carrick customs precisely so they'd arrive fresh, directly from Evelyn's hands. That was the secret. Kindness, repeated over decades, had woven a safety net that no treaty could replicate.
Now, where did I put that recipe card?
The galaxy spun on, a little kinder for having her in it. At checkpoint Theta -7, Officer Vreshtrel now greeted travelers with a courtesy that startled his former squad.
Welcome to Carrick Space. May I assist you with your documents?
On the wall behind him, a small bronze plaque had been installed overnight, its inscription in 6 languages. "Let all who pass here be met with the dignity our children deserve." In her son's kitchen, Mrs. Dunbar rolled out dough while 2 grandchildren dusted flour across the counter.
Not quite enough chocolate chips, but they'll do. We'll make a double batch next time.
At the checkpoint, Vreshtrel's squadmates gave him approving pats on the back, a camaraderie born of respect. The cookies emerged from the oven, imperfect and fragrant, and the children's laughter filled the house.
These will do nicely. Let them cool, then we'll have a taste.
And across the light years, in a palace garden, an Empress Dowager opened a new letter from Earth and smiled. Earlier, while the cookies cooled, Mrs. Dunbar had composed a brief hollow message under the soft lamp of the sunroom.
Dearest Isel, the replacement cookies were perfect. Your son's officer was very polite. Thank you for your kindness, as always.
She pressed send and returned to the mixing bowl, the message already traveling across the stars. In her palace garden, Empress Dowager Ysel received the message as she took her morning tea.
Oh,
always gracious. That woman, 40 years, and she still thanks me for the smallest things.
Beside her, a delicate porcelain teacup held a steaming brew, a single golden cookie resting on the saucer. The galaxy's true diplomacy was never in the treaty halls. It was in handwritten notes, holiday recipes, and condolences on cream-colored paper. And as the tea cooled, the Empress Dowager began to dictate her reply. The cycle of kindness would turn again, a quiet engine that had run for 4 decades without fail. No wars could silence it, no treaty could replace it. It was simply, Grandma, when Mrs. Dunbar finally departed the colony, she did not travel alone. 6 flagships, each from a different empire, had assembled in orbit, their diplomatic codes flashing a single instruction: honor escort. On every prow, identical floral wreaths, pink, white, and yellow blossoms, had been affixed, the apology rendered in petals. The cream and rose transport, delicate and steadfast, glided into the center of the formation. From her viewport, Mrs. Dunbar looked out and allowed herself a small, private smile. The wreaths were not just apology. They were a promise that kindness, however quiet, would be honored. The formation turned toward the Dawn Nebula, its pink-orange glow, embracing the ships like a benediction. For a long moment, the 7 vessels hung in the silence of space, a tableau of respect. Then, with a gentle burn of engines, they moved forward into the light, and the galaxy, for all its coldness, felt a little warmer. Mrs. Dunbar settled into her favorite viewport seat, the escort a constellation of lights. Here, among the stars, was the quiet proof of a life well lived. The 7 ships glided in perfect sync, their wreaths catching the light like offerings. Her fingers brushed the cool surface of the window, tracing the outline of a distant sun. The nebula's embrace grew deeper, the fleet a string of jewels against pink-orange. She thought of her grandchildren's laughter, the warmth of the kitchen, and the letters still to be written. Ahead lay the next colony, the next visit, the next batch of cookies. But for now, she let the hum of the engines carry her forward into the quiet unknown. The galaxy did not pause, but it remembered. And somewhere, in a sunroom on a distant colony, a scrapbook waited for its next entry.